Today, we're going to piece together a story of a day that started with so much joy and ended in just complete disbelief. We're going to use the words of the people who were there to reconstruct the moments that unfolded at a Lao New Year's festival in New Iberia, a day that just spiraled from celebration into utter chaos. This one quote from a witness really gets to the heart of it all. This feeling of profound shock, this sense of unreality. It's a feeling that just hangs over everything that happened. So let's rewind a bit and see how a community ended up in this disorienting, terrifying moment. Okay, so before all the chaos, there was just pure joy. We're at the Lao New Year's festival. It's so important to really get a feel for the atmosphere here, this baseline of community and happiness before the afternoon took such a dark turn. I mean, just picture this. Families are everywhere, everyone's getting excited for the parade to start, you've got music playing, kids are running around playing with water guns, people are just having a great time. It is the very definition of a community celebration, just vibrant and totally full of life. And right in the middle of this perfect scene, a single car starts to change everything. And it all begins so subtly, almost unnoticeably, not in a way that would make anyone panic right away. It all starts with the most simple, mundane action you can imagine. A driver gets into his car. That's it. A moment that nobody there would have had any reason to remember. Then, the car starts to move forward, slowly, just inching closer to where all the people are gathered for the parade. At this point, it's really nothing, just a car moving at a crawl. And this is so key because it shows you what everyone was thinking. This witness, Anderson, explains exactly why nobody was alarmed at first. They saw a decorated car and, of course, they made the most logical assumption. Oh, he must be in the parade, just getting into position. Totally normal. But then the car doesn't stop. It just keeps inching forward, closer, and then closer still. And you can just imagine how in those few seconds, that logical assumption starts to curdle into this really deep sense of unease. Something is just not right here. So this is the pivot point. This is the exact moment where all the rational explanations just fall away and the horrifying reality of what's about to happen starts to sink in. The crowd's confusion is about to turn into sheer terror. Wow. And this just perfectly illustrates that shift. One witness describes the music just stopping. A sudden, jarring silence that cuts right through all the festive noise. And in that quiet, this one question just hangs in the air. Is this, actually happening? You can feel the disbelief. And then, that surreal horror becomes brutally, horribly real. The car is no longer just inching forward. Now we're going to see how this moment unfolded through the eyes of the people who were right there. The driver hits the gas, and in the words of that same witness, the one who first saw the decorated car, he just plows through everything. That logical, innocent assumption is just shattered by this violent, completely incomprehensible act. Another witness, Henry, gives us this different, absolutely terrifying vantage point. He's trying to find his family, and this is what he sees. Bodies flying and pushing off to the side. It's just an image of absolute chaos. So in the seconds that follow, the entire feeling of the festival just gets turned upside down. The sound of music is replaced by screaming. The joy of the crowd just breaks apart into individual terror. The only instinct is to survive and to frantically, desperately search for your loved ones. This single question becomes the only thing that matters for so many people. In all the blur and confusion, you hear people screaming for their kids, for their family members. Where are they? It's the most terrifying question a parent can ask. One mom, Eli's mom, she described that exact terror. Her only thought was, I have to find my son. She did eventually. She located him, and thank God he was safe. But it was only in that moment of just profound relief, holding her child, that she could even begin to process the absolute horror of the scene around them. And this is the kind of horror she would have been seeing. Another witness, Trahan, describes this personal nightmare. Her own niece and grandbaby were on a golf cart right in the path of the car. The car hit the cart, and it sent both of them flying as the whole thing was knocked sideways. For Eli's mom, after she found her son, she finally looked around and saw what she later called that twilight zone. It was a scene that was just difficult, almost impossible to grasp. The celebration had been replaced by this landscape of injury, of shock, and the scattered, colorful bits and pieces of a party that had ended in an instant. And that brings us right back to where we started, back to that feeling of being in the twilight zone. The physical injuries, that's one part of the story, but the emotional and the psychological impact is a whole other thing. When a day of pure joy becomes a moment of surreal horror, well, it leaves a scar. And it leaves us with this final question. How does a community even begin to process something like that?